The Plum in the Golden Vase Original Version Chapter 31. The piano boy hides the pot and provokes Simon King to have a feast. Talking about Simon King, the next day an envoy came to deliver the documents to the prison. On the one hand, he asked people to make official hats, and asked Zhao to cut the ruler heads and make round collars. He also asked many craftsmen to nail 7 or 8 straps. Not to mention the chaos in Simon King's house. Wu Dian went to Earl Ying's house that day and offered to serve as a postmaster. He asked the Earl again and again to ask Simon King for the wrong money and use it up and down. The Earl thanked him with 10 taels of silver and said kneel on the ground. The panicked Earl pulled him up and said, "This is the beauty of adulthood. It is not an ordinary thing for a high official to help you achieve this career." Yin asked, "How much do you have now?" Wu Dian said, "To be honest, brother, my family doesn't have a single penny. Tomorrow when I take office as a council officer, the ceremony of meeting Z, including the wine, clothes, pommel and horse, will cost at least 70 or 80 taels of silver. Now I have written a piece of paper, and there is nothing. I dare to count. I hope that I can help the villain at least, and my kindness will be repaid." The Earl read the document and said, "Brother Angkor, the 70 or 80 taels of silver you lend is not enough. According to me, take a pen and write down 100 taels. Hang is just looking at me. I don't want you to profit from the money, so you can use it. When I become an official tomorrow, it won't be too late to pay him back gradually. As the saying goes, borrow rice and get it. If you ask for rice, you won't be able to get rid of the pot. After coaxing him for a day, it takes 2 long hours." After hearing this, Wu Dian thanked him again and again. So I filled in the number of 100 taels on the document. After the two had tea, they got up together and came to the head of Simon Kingmen. Pinginer informed them, and the two of them entered and saw many tailors and craftsmen busy with their lives. Simon King and Chen Jingji were in the corridor, looking at the official manuscripts and unveiling posts. When they saw them, they bowed and gave way to sit down. The Earl asked, "Have you ever downloaded the manuscript of my brother's manuscript?" Simon King said, "This morning I sent a small price to the Tixing Mansion to pay the manuscript. There are also manuscripts of Dongbing Mansion in this county. Now I am about to call by sea. Go and get off." After saying that, Hua Tunger brought some tea. After finishing the tea, Earl Ying did not mention the matter of Supervisor Wu. He came down and looked at the craftsman's nail belt. When Simon King saw him picking up the belts and looking at them, he showed off and said, "What do you think of these belts I found?" The Earl praised and praised. "The belts I found there are all as good as the other ones. It's rare to be so generous. For nothing else, since this rhinoceros horn belt has a red crane crown, even if you have money all over the capital, you can't find it if it's not a face reward. Even the master of the Tokyo Guard, who has a jade belt and a gold belt, can't find it. This rhino horn belt, this is water rhino horn, not dry rhino horn. Dry rhino horn is worthless. Water rhino horn is called babble rhinoceros. If you don't believe it, take a bowl of water and put the rhino horn in the water. The water will be divided into 2 places. This is a priceless treasure." Because he asked, "Brother, how much silver did you spend on Shin?" Simon King said, "You guys try to estimate the value." The Count said, "How can I estimate how much money this has?" Simon King said, "Let me tell you. This belt is from Wang Zhaoxuan's mansion on the street. Yesterday a man heard me asking for it, and Baba came to me and said, I took 70 taels of silver from by sea and came back again and again. His family still refuses, and he must ask for 100 taels. The Earl said, "It's rare for such a handsome man to look good. Brother, when you go out tomorrow, you will be very popular, even among your colleagues. They will fall in love with you when they see you." After praising him, he sat down. Simon King then asked Director Wu, "Have you submitted the paperwork yet?" The Count said, "Brother Angkor was about to submit the paperwork. Baba asked me to bother you today. I ask you to take care of him and go to Tokyo to deliver the birthday gift. Although the Grand Master gave him this future, even if you praise him, it is his own creation." "No, the first 2 9th ranks are all court officials, but he told me that now that he takes office, he will serve wine in front of the officials. And it costs a lot of money to repair clothes and the like. How can we change the situation? A guest can't bother to masters. There is nothing I can do. Brother looked at me and lent him a few taels of silver, so he helped with these things freely. He will arrive tomorrow as a Shangwan, even if you have the title of Huanji Cao. You still dare not forget your great kindness. Don't say that he is always working under my sect, even if he is an official in the outer capital. I don't know how much he has done. Otherwise, you can teach him to go to other places? Because he said, Brother Wu, take out the talisman and show it to your high officials. Wu Dian quickly took it out from his arms and handed it to Simon King to look at. I saw a loan of 100 taels of silver from the person above, and the person I borrowed from him was Count Ying, and I received a profit of 5 cents per month. Simon King took out a pen and wiped out the interest, and said, Since my second brother is the guarantee, you will only pay me 100 taels tomorrow. I expect you will be troubled by this money. Then he collected the document. Just as he was going back to collect the money, Jia Tixing suddenly sent a letter writer from the 3rd Squadron with a handbook. Congratulations, Mr. Zhu, the yin and yang teacher of Simon King, decided to take office at the 2nd day of the 7th lunar month. He took a post back to Jia to punish him and rewarded him with 5 coins for writing. Just as he was leaving the house, Chen Jingji came out with 100 taels of silver, taught Supervisor Wu, and said, Brother Wu, you can only pay me my capital tomorrow. Wu Dian took the silver and went out happily. The judge heard that later Simon King died and the family was in decline. Wu Yunyang became a widow. She was stolen by Ping En'er and used as the head of the treasury. She stayed in a prostitute in Nanwazi. Wu Yicheng caught him and taught him how to control Wu Yunyang and her husband. There is an adulterer in Dan, and Luozi Yunyang is asked to serve as an official to repay kindness with hatred. This is a posthumous matter and is not an issue. Exactly, don't plant flowers that don't produce seeds, and don't make friends with unrighteous people. At that time, Ben Si went to Dongping Mansion and took action in this county to reply. Simon King left him and Count Ying to accompany Mr. Yin and Yang Zhu to prepare meals. While eating, Mr. Zhu got up when he saw Uncle Wu coming to visit. After a long time, Earl Ying also resigned and went out to Director Wu's house. Wu Dian had already sealed him with 10 taels of guaranteed head money, handed it to the Earl with both hands, and kowtowed. The Earl said, If I hadn't been so cunning, I would have refused to lend it to you. Wu Dian rewarded the Earl, arranged the official duties and clothes, and chose a day to see the official take office. At that time, Li Jixian, the chief official of the county, met with his colleagues in the 4 government offices and sent people to send sheep wine as gifts. He also sent a young man with a post to agree. He was only 18 years old and was originally from Changshu County, Suzhou Prefecture. His name was Xiaozhang Song. He was originally from the middle school in the county. He was handsome, with a face like powder, white teeth and red lips. He could read and write well, and was good at singing southern songs. He wore straight green gauze embroidery, sandals and socks. When Simon King saw that Zhao Lang was smart, he was filled with joy, so he replied to Li Jixian with a agreeing note. Leaving him at home to agree, and changed his name to Schuttinger, I made him a new suit of clothes, new shoes and a new hat. Instead of teaching him how to follow a horse, I taught him to take care of the study room, receive gift cards, and get the keys to the garden door. Zhu Xinyan sponsored another 14-year-old boy to agree. He also changed his name to Chess Tong, and sent Ding and Kin Tunger to backpacks, a greeting card box, and a horse every day. On the day when he took office, a large banquet was set up in the Yamen, and the musicians from the 3 hospitals were issued tickets to accept the performance of playing and singing. At this time, Li Ming also came in the middle, drinking in the back hall, and dispersed back home at dusk. He rides a big white horse every day, wears a black gauze on his head, wears a lion collar with colorful threads rubbing his head, a 4-finger white cute golden eggplant fragrant belt, foundation soap boots, shouts from the platoon troops, and wears a big black fan. Cheering in front and crowding behind, more than a dozen people followed, swaying in the street. After taking office, He first pays homage to the county commander, the governor, and the fellow officers of King's left and right guards, and then makes new friends and neighbors. What an honor to do. I receive gifts and posts at home all the time. Exactly, a white horse with red tassels is a new color. Those who don't come to kiss me are forced to come. When the time comes, stubborn iron produces brilliance, but when good gold is transported away, there is no invention. Since Simon King took office, he has been sitting in the Yamen of Tishingyuan every day, in the drawing room of the Rising Hall, asking about official affairs. Time flies, and Li Pinger is almost a month old. Wu De Jinzi, Jinzi, Miss Young, Grandma Pan, Aunt Wu, Mrs. Kiao Dahu, and many relatives and guests from the neighboring halls and women came to send gifts to celebrate the moon with the official brother. In the courtyard, Sister Li Gui and Wu Yin'er saw that Simon King had become a prisoner for thousands of families, and his son was born at home. They also gave him a big gift and sat in a sedan chair to celebrate. On the day of Simon's celebration, a banquet was held in the front hall, and the guests were invited to drink. Chanmai, Yingchun, Yuxiao and Langshang all dressed up and poured wine and held pots in front of the banquet. It turned out that Simon King came from the Yamen every day. He only took off his clothes when he went to the outer hall, folded them up with the teaching boy, put them in the study, and went to the back wearing only his hat and hat. When I got up the next day, I sent my maid to the study to get it. Recently, a room in the west wing of the hall has been renovated to serve as a study room, where a bed table, tables and chairs, screens, pens and inkstones, instruments and books have been installed. The book boy sleeps on the bed's footboard at night. Simon King was resting in that room, and in the morning he sent the maid in that room to get clothes from the front. I took it back and forth, but I didn't expect that this young man was born in a family. He was smart and good-looking, and he was familiar with the girls in each house. So he secretly got into a mockery with Yuxio in the upper room. It was an important day, so the young man got up, placed a mirror on the windowsill, combed his hair, and tied it with a red rope. Unexpectedly, Yuxiao opened the door and came in. She saw him and said, "Good thief, you are so charming to us. Dad will come out after eating porridge." The book boy ignored him and just tied his hair in a bun. Yuxiao said, "Dad's clothes are folded." "Where are they placed?" The book boy said, "They are placed at the south end of the bed." Yuxiao said, "He won't wear this outfit today. Tell me to ask you which one you want." "Black gold patch, silk collar, jade shirt." The book boy said, "That dress is in the kitchen cabinet. I just put it away yesterday, and I have to wear it again today." "Sister, you open the door and get it. Let's go." The jade flute didn't take any clothes, but came up to him and looked at him tying his hair, jokingly saying, "The strange thief prisoner also tied his hair with a red rope like his wife, and his hair was combed like a comb." Seeing that he was wearing a white rolled gauze bleached cloth sweatshirt with a silver, red gauze sachet and a green gauze sachet tied to it, he said, "You and I, the silver red one," the book boy said. "I love things. You want it?" Yuxiao said, "Your young man can't bring this silver red one, so I have to bring it." The book boy said, "That's all, if he is a man. Do you love him too?" Deliberately pinched his shoulder and said, "Prisoner, you are trying to sell the door god in the street. You can tell it's a good picture." Without any explanation, he untied the two sachets and put them on the inside the sleeve. The book boy said, "You are not noble. You will break people's belts." He was scolded by Yuxiao and hit him with punches. The book boy who was beaten became anxious and said, "Sister, please stop fooling around with me until I tie up my hair." Yuxiao said, "Let me ask you, didn't you hear where Dad was going today?" The book boy said, "Dad, today I saw him off with the county Zhonghua registrar and served wine at Unixu's place in Huangzhuang. I was afraid that he would not come home until the afternoon. I also heard that my second uncle Ying was exchanging money today to buy a house from a wealthy family across the street, so he could have a drink there." Yuxiao said, "Don't go there when you come back. I'll talk to you." The book boy said, "I know." Yu Xiao then went on a date with him before taking her clothes and heading back. After a while, Simon King came out and called the book boy and told him, "Don't go there at home. Write 12 invitations first. all in big red paper envelopes. On the 28th, invite the official guests to King Guangir's wine. Teach Lai Xing'er the comprador things. Add tea and wine to the cooks. Prepare the table and arrange it neatly. Dan and to platoon soldiers. Send the children to sing. And leave the piano boy to take care of the wine in front of the guests. After giving the instructions, Simon King mounted his horse to see him off. Wu Yunyang and her sisters invited all the guests to the table. They first served tea in the rolling shed, and then sat down in the hall with a peacock screen and a hibiscus mattress. During the banquet, for prostitutes were invited to play and sing. Sure enough, Simon King came home in the afternoon. The family ranged a box of food and wine, invited Earl Ying and Chen Jingji, exchanged 700 taels of silver, and went to build a house in Qiao's family across the street. While the guests were drinking, Yu Xiao took out a silver pot of wine for pears and an orange, and came to the side room to give them to the scholar. I opened the door, but I didn't want the book boy to be inside, so I put down the pot and came out for fear of being seen. But suddenly, something strange happened. Qin Tunger was drinking wine above. He watched Yu Xiao go into the study with a cold look. When he came out after half a day, he only knew that there was a book boy inside, but he didn't know how to go in to take a look. I didn't want Shedong to go out, but he never came in. A pot of hot wine and fruits were still placed under the bed. The piano boy hurriedly hid the fruit in his sleeve and lifted the pot of wine into Li Pingera's room. I saw Ryer and Shuchen watching their brother in the house. When Qin Tong entered the door, he asked, "Where is sister?" Shuchen said, "He is pouring wine with my mother up there." "What do you ask him about?" Qin Tunger said, "I have a good son. Teach him to do it for me. Keep it." Shuchen asked him something, but he didn't take it out. Just as he was talking, Yingshan took down a plate of roast goose, a plate of cornmeal and rosehip stuffed steamed cakes and breast milk to eat. When he saw it, he said, "Prisoner, what are you laughing at here? Aren't you watching the one above?" Just then he took the pot out from under his clothes and told Yingshun, "Sister, you and I can keep it." Yingshun said, "This is the pot for sifting wine. What are you doing with it for nothing?" Qin Tong said, "Sister, you can take it with me. You don't have to worry about him. This is Jade Xiao in the upper room. And the boy in, 7 or 8, stole this pot of wine and some oranges and pears, and brought them to the study to eat with him. I ran out of sight. It was a joke. Come here. You just keep it with me, and don't take it out if you ask who comes to look for it. I just found by Kyer." As he took out the pears and oranges and looked at Yingshun, Yingshun said, "Wait a minute. Will you bear the responsibility if he goes back to seize the pot and start a rebellion?" Qin Tong said, "I didn't steal his pot. Everyone was in trouble on the spot. The next door is generous and mind my business." After that, he walked away. Yingshun hid the pot on the table in the inner room without mentioning it. In the evening, when the banquet was dispersed, the family fire was checked and the pot was missing. Yu Xiao looked for it in the study, where he could find it. When he asked the boy, he said, "I have something to do outside." "I don't know." Yu Xiao panicked and pushed Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu scolded. Rory fainted. "You whore, I was watching the tea in the back, while you were holding the pot and pouring wine with your mother during the dinner. The pot is missing this time, so you have to rely on me. Can't find it anywhere." After a long time, Li Pinger came to the room, and Yingshun told her this way. "Tunger brought a handful of kinsen and asked me to keep them for him." Li Pinger said, "What did he do to bring this prison root in? What's behind it?" "Because of this pot." She didn't rebel. The jade flute pushed Xiao Yu, and Xiao Yu pushed the jade flute. The big girl was so anxious that she risked her life to curse, and just cried. "You should send it in as soon as possible. It's up to you, little whore, to take care of things later." "Oh, my son." Yingshun just took out the pot and sent it to the back. Behind them, Yu Xiao and Xiao Yu were shouting in front of Yunyang. Yunyang said, "You stinky meat. What do you dare to shout about? Which door are you in charge of? The pot is missing." Yu Xiao said, "I am following my mother up there to deliver wine, and he is guarding the silverware and the fire. He's gone. Now it's up to me." Xiao Yu said, "The big lady wants tea. Why don't I go to the back to get it for him?" "You are holding the pot. Why are you missing? How dare you have a big butt? You are worried. Yunyang said, there is no one else at the table today. Why is something missing? Wait until your master comes back. If you don't have this pot, the whole family will be punished. During the chaos, I saw Simon King coming from outside and asked, why is there so much chaos? Yunyang told her about the missing pot. Simon King said, just look for it slowly. What are you shouting about? Pan Jinlian said, if you have a drink and a handful disappears, if you don't make a fuss, your family will be Wang Shiwan. Don't be jealous. After all, the pot is thin. The judge heard. Jinlian said this, mockingly ping her for giving birth first. And the pot disappears after the full moon, which is also unlucky. Simon Qingming heard it but kept silent. I saw Yingxun bringing a pot in. Yu Xiao said, this is not a pot. Yunyang asked Yingxun, where does this pot come from? Yunyang asked, where is that servant Kintunger now? Diane said, he went to sleep in the house on Shishi Street today. Jinlian laughed unknowingly. Simon King then asked, why are you laughing? Jinlian said, Kintunger is his family, and he puts the pot in his room. I think he must hide the meaning of the pot. If you want to call me, the boy will now call you that. Come here, slave. Be honest and ask him about his whereabouts. Otherwise, the two of them will be responsible for killing the Vajra and killing the Buddha. After hearing this, Simon King was furious, opened his eyes and looked at Jinlian and said, according to what you say, does it mean that Sister Li loves this pot? Now that you have it, just throw it away and just worry about messing up. Jinlian blushed with embarrassment and said, who said that sister doesn't have it in her hand? Money. After saying that, he walked over and let Xing'er go. In Ximenxing, Chen Jingji came in to talk. Jinlian and Meng Yulu stood together and cursed. If you don't get a good death, you will become a third-rate thief and robber. How can you seek death in the past 2 days? Ever since I raised this kind of child, it was like giving birth to a prince. When I saw him every time he is like a god, he becomes more and more incapable of saying anything good. And he just opens his mouth by holes and yells at people. Who knows that my sister is rich, and she is used to every little girl raising a man to be a thief. People have said it over and over again, so don't bother with him. With that said, Simon King and Chen Jingji talked for a while and then went forward. Meng Yulu said, if you don't go, he went to your room for no reason. Jinlian said, but he said, the room with children is lively, but the room without children is deserted. As he said, I saw Chunmai coming from outside. Yulu said, I said he went to your house, but you still don't believe it. It's not Chunmai who asked you to come. He called Chunmai to ask. Chunmai said, I'm here to ask Yu Xiao for a sweat towel. Yulu asked, where is your father? Chunmai said, Dad went to Liu Niang's room. After hearing this, Jinlian was heartbroken. It's like putting a torch on a fire, cursing, thieves and strongmen, tomorrow and eternity. Will be 1,000 years, your feet will be broken. Don't even come into my house. Kick the threshold, teach the prisoner to break the ankle bone. It's broken, Yulu said. Sixth sister, why did you curse him so viciously today? Jinlian said, it's not like that. A robber with 3 inches of goods. A rat-bellied chicken-hearted heart. It has to be 3 inches big. She is your wife. She just has these extra urine cells for no reason. How can it be? What are you doing to kill one by one and drag people ashore into the mud? Exactly, the strong wind blows down the plane trees, and others will criticize them. Here the golden lotus makes Xing'er irrelevant. Let us say that when Simon King came to the front, Superintendent Zhu sent his family members with a jar of wine, a sheep, 2 pieces of golden satin, a plate of birthday peaches, a plate of birthday noodles, and for delicacies. Simon King rewarded the visitor generously and sent him away. At the back, Sister Li Gui and Wu Yin'er were saying goodbye to go home. Simon King said, you stay here for another day every 2 days. On the 28th, I will invite many official guests, including jugglers in the courtyard, and I will teach you to just pass the wine. Sister Gui said, that's it. Leave me alone. I'll teach you how to answer my mother's call. Don't worry. So they sent the 2 people away in the sedan chair without further ado. The next day, Simon King arranged brocade screens and banquets in the hall, and invited officials and guests to drink. Because I met eunuch Liu, who was in charge of the brick factory, at Huangzhuang the day before yesterday, I and Prime Minister Zhu gave him gifts. Simon King sent a letter to invite him here, and also invited Earl Ying and Zida to accompany him. After dinner, the two of them were fully dressed and arrived earlier. Simon King asked him to wait in the shed for tea. The Earl asked, "How many guests will you invite to the banquet today?" Simon King said, "There are 2 internal ministers, Liu and Zhu, Lord Zhou of the commander's mansion, who are all in charge of Jingnan, my colleague Jia Tixing, and General Zhang of the regiment, Guard Fan Qianhu, Brother Wu. Mr. Qiao has sent people back and forth today. Even the 2 of them can only count the guests." After saying this, Uncle Wu and Uncle Wu arrived, and they bowed. We sat down together and placed tables on the left and right to set the food. After eating, Earl Ying asked, "Have you ever brought the baby out when he was full moon?" Simon King said, "It's also because the guests wanted to see it. So the servants said they wouldn't teach the baby to come out for fear of the wind trying to touch him. His breast said it was okay." He taught his sister-in-law to wrap herself up in a quilt and walked around her aunt's house. After a while, she went inside. The Earl said, "My sister-in-law is invited to come here that day, and she also has to come and go round the house. In her busy schedule, the old illness has resurfaced, and I can't get up from the bed, so I'm worried. Now, before anyone arrives, it's better for me to say something and carry my brother out, and I'll take a look at him together." Simon King ordered those behind him, "Bring brother out slowly, don't try to scare him. Tell your mother, uncle and uncle are here, and Father Ying and Father Z want to take a look." Yunyang taught her. Ryer was wrapped tightly in a small red silk quilt and brought to the corner door of the rolling shed. Diana took her into the rolling shed. Everyone looked at him and saw that Brother Guan was wearing a bright red satin sweater. His face was white and his lips were red. He was very rich, and they all praised him. Uncle Wu, second uncle and Zida each took out a piece of brocade from their sleeves, with a small silver pendant on it. But Earl Ying had a piece of willow with 5-color thread on it, and wore a dozen coins of longevity money. Zhao and Danner happily carried him back to his room. He didn't want to scare his brother and said, "You have a good appearance. You were born to wear a gauze hat." Simon King was overjoyed and bowed to him. While talking, it was suddenly reported that eunuch Liu and eunuch Zhu were coming. In a panic, Simon King put on his clothes and was greeted by Yimin. The 2 of them sat in a 4-person sedan next to each other, passed through the shoulder python, lined up with tassels and guns, and arrived with shouts. Simon King first went to the hall to pay his respects, greet him with greetings, and receive tea. The military attacks such as Zhou Defei, Jingdu Prison, Jia Tixing, etc., who were lagging behind, all wore brocade uniforms, wore rattan sticks and big fans, and shouted in the military prison. In a moment, they arrived at the door, and there were many people waiting in the dark. There was loud drumming and singing inside. Simon King came in and met Liu and Zhu. There are 12 tables and seats in the front of the hall. Simon King gave up his seat. Liu and Zhu repeatedly gave in and said, "There are still all of you." Zhou Xiaobai said, "Both old eunuchs are both distinguished in character and virtue. As the saying goes, a 3-year-old eunuch is better than a prince. This is natural, so there is no need to talk about it in general terms." They gave in to each other for a while. Zhu Nixiang said, "Brother Liu, since you are unwilling and it is difficult for the boss, let's just sit down." So Luoquan sang and paid tribute. Liu Nixiang was on the left and Zhu Nixiang was on the right. Each of them put a handkerchief under his knees. 2 boys were fanning beside them and then sat down. The next ones were Zhou Xiaobai and Zhu Nixiang. Everyone in Jingdu was in prison. After a while, a group of flutes and scorpions were played at the bottom of the stairs. The banquet that day was full of food and cooking, and the fruits were fresh. After a while, after 5 rounds of wine, the soup was presented 3 times, and the Haikou officials from the Jiaofang department were gathered for a while. Here comes the copy of Shaliuan. It's exactly built with hundreds of treasures and armbands with pearls. It can reach close to the eyes when laughing, and the brocade wraps around the head after dancing. After Xiao Yuanben finished dressing up, two young actors, Li Ming and Wu Hui, came up to play and sing. A zither and a pipa, Zhou Xiaobai first raised his hand to the two internal ministers and said, "Old eunuch, do you want them to sing that song?" Eunuch Liu said, "Everyone please go first." Zhou Xiaobai said, "Old eunuch, naturally, there is no need to be too humble." Eunuch Liu said. The two disciples sang, sighing that life is like a dream. Zhou Xiaobai said, "Old eunuch, this is a speech to sigh about the world. Today is a happy event for Lord Simon King. I can't sing the birthday song." Eunuch Liu asked again, "Can you sing although she is not the 8 ministers with purple ribbons? She is the golden hairpin girl in the 6th palace." Zhou Xiaobai said, "This is Chen Lin holding makeup box miscellaneous notes, celebrating today, can sing." Eunuch Zhu said, "You asked the two of them to come up and wait for me to tell them. Confusion.The. Do you remember I think the most painful parting in life is parting?" Jia Tixingde he smiled and said, "Old eunuch, these are words of farewell, and they are becoming more and more incompetent." Eunuch Zhu said, "Every time I make a living as an internal official, I only know the promise to the Lord long live, but I don't know the taste of the lyrics and music. I just sing it according to him." Jia Nianxing was finally a deacon of Jinwu. He relied on him to become an official, so he ordered, "You sing the 30-tune routine. Today is your father Simon's official promotion. It is a good day and a happy day. It's time to sing this set." Zhu Nixiang asked, "What's the reason for Zhang's joy?" Zhou Xiaobai said, "Two old eunuchs. Today is also the 12th month of Lord Simon's son, and every one of my colleagues has a small gift to celebrate." Zhu Nixiang said, "This? Because he said to Eunuch Liu, 'Liu family, we will make up for the gift every tomorrow to celebrate.'" Simon King thanked him and said, "The student gave birth to a dolphin dog, which is not enough to congratulate. The old eunuch doesn't need to worry about it." After saying that, he called Diane and called out Wu Yin'er and Sister Li Gui, and passed the wine in front of the table. The two singers came out dressed up with beautiful flowers and candles. They seemed to have kowtowed for times. They stood up, poured wine from the pot, and worshipped one by one. The two musicians sang a new set of lyrics, and their singing voices were really resonant. That night, they sang and danced. There were flowers and brocades, and they drank till the last hour. Then Zhu Nixiang stood up and said, "One of us has received great hospitality, and both of us are celebrating. I didn't realize that I lingered and drank. It was very disturbing. Student farewell." Simon King said, "I invite you to have a cup of tea." And the light falls, which suddenly makes the fenugreek shine brighter. "Fortunately, I can sit down for a while to finish my fun." Everyone stood up and said, "I am deeply disturbed by the weight, and the wine is too strong, no victory." Everyone bowed and bowed to thank each other. Simon King couldn't keep the money again and again, so he had to send it to the gate together with his uncle Wu and his second uncle. One group was playing drums and playing loudly, and the lights were bright on both sides. They crowded in front and behind, and shouted away. "Exactly, how much to get? The days are too short for singing, dancing and entertainment, so high candles are burned to illuminate the red makeup."
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.